All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to our Asia Pacific Online Traders Summit follow-up training. I'll be doing a couple of these videos over the course of the next couple of weeks, introducing you guys to um, different features within MetaStock and how to use the power tools and some of the different systems within MetaStock. My name is Hunter Smith. I've been with MetaStock for a few years now, and I'm actually one of the gentlemen in charge of our products and our resellers, etc., and general product management. And we actually brought to you not too long ago, it was last weekend, the Asia Pacific Online Traders Summit, where we had 4 experts delve into their systems, their methodologies, etc. And at the end, I actually was getting into MetaStock a little bit and the forecaster tool, and I just really did not feel like I had enough time to get into really the ins and outs and kind of a workflow. And the workflow was kind of a general theme that all of the presenters that day were talking about, as well as trade management. So before we get into the presentation, what I want to do is get the disclaimer out of the way. This demonstration is designed to instruct you on using MetaStock and accompanying software plugins, and are not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather guidelines to interpreting and using the specific indicators and features within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading. MetaStock shall have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of their software, any trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. Now, I won't be going through PowerPoints or anything today. I really just want to get into the software, and I want to take a little bit of a deeper look at what my workflow is, number one, but possibly help some of you get into a little bit more of a fluid workflow with MetaStock. Whether you're brand new to MetaStock or whether you've been using it for years, hopefully I can bring something to the table that you guys don't already know today. Now, most of you that are familiar with MetaStock, or really any charting platforms, are going to be familiar with a basic charting system. Also, before I get into it, if you have questions, type them into the chat box, and I will do my best to answer them as we go along. Now, I'm opening a chart of Microsoft right now, and I just kind of take you guys through a real brief show of what tools we have available in MetaStock, kind of how the charting works. As you can see, I mean, if you've looked at different charting platforms, you're going to have an idea of kind of how the layout is. It's going to look familiar, and part of the reason for that is we've been around for about 30 years now, and we've been rated the #1 technical analysis software in our class for 25 of those years now. So, other programs out there have taken little bits and pieces of MetaStock and kind of different design, et cetera, that draw inspiration from MetaStock. So a lot of this is going to look super familiar. Right now we have a very, very simple bar chart of Microsoft, as well as we have our volume from Microsoft down here. Now, the first thing that I want to do is be able to customize the chart to the way that I'm used to looking at charts. Super easy to do. Just like indicators, just like many other things in MetaStock, all you have to do is click on the chart itself, double click. A lot of you use candlesticks. Some of you want to use candle volume or line or KG, some rare forms of charting. We have a Rico, 3-line break, point and figure. Let's stick with the real simple stuff here today. So if we're looking at candlesticks, let's go ahead and apply that. That's going to be my basic candle chart, which is typically actually what I look at. Now at the top here, you have all the primary tools. You have all of your indicators in the drop-down box at the very top. So let me scroll down. Let me add an indicator. Let's add an indicator. So let's take a moving average. Now, one of the presenters was actually speaking about trading the 200 period moving average. Let's take a look at that. So we dragged and dropped a moving average over a chart of MetaStock. Automatically, it's going to pull up that window. Hope everybody can see that okay. I could change the color of my moving average here. I can change whether I want it to be a dotted line or a straight line, etc. You can change the weight, make it a little bit thicker. Here's really the important screen. So we're actually taking a look at the actual period of the moving average. So I put in a 200 period moving average. So let's take a look at that. Now currently, Microsoft is just below its 200 period moving average. I'm zooming out here to kind of get a feel of where it trades most of the time, which is in fact above the 200 period moving average. So if you're a person that looks at moving averages a significant amount of the time, like myself, being able to plot these very easily is going to come in very handy. Now let's say that we want to take a look at a shorter time frame moving average over the top of that. Change the color. Let's go blue. Let's make it a little bit thicker. Okay. So as we can see here, the blue is actually the 50 period moving average, and it's over top the 200 period moving average right now. And we had a little interference with the two of them right here. However, the 50 period moving average has broken up, as well as we're looking at Microsoft actually trading most of the time over its 200 period moving average until lately. So there's a few different interpretations that you can take off of that. That's a little about some of the indicators. We actually have over 250 indicators that are built within MetaStock. Not only that, we actually give you the ability through our formula language, which is really the easiest out there, to be able to create your own indicators, your own templates, etc. within MetaStock. So if you have a specific indicator that you want to build, it's very, very easy to do so. Okay. Now, on the left side, we have our different charting tools here. We have our crosshair tool where we can identify a specific point in time. We have our trend line tool so that we can go ahead and draw trend lines. So we want a trend line right here. Again, once we draw the trend line, we can double click on it. We can change the parameters of it, the start date, the value, all these different things. We also have support and resistance lines that can plot as well as vertical lines. Now we also have a full assortment of your different Fibonacci and Gann tools. We have our Fibonacci projection tool here as well as our retracement tool. So if we take Fibonacci's into account and we want to take a look at, let's say, this move, I'm going to plot that right here. And we're bouncing off the 0% line, kind of hovering around the 23.6. I can change the parameters of our Fibonacci's right here as well, just by double-clicking and changing the properties. It's under retracement line. Now, all of the primary tools here, drawing tools, etc., they're very, very easy to use. We have quick buttons, basically, to access all of our other tools that I'll be getting into a little bit more here in just a moment. We have our indicator builder so that we can actually go in and build indicators. We have our expert advisor, little guy in the hat. We have our system tester, our exploration tool, which I'm going to get into first here in just a moment, as well as the MetaStock forecaster, which I'm excited to bring to you here at the end. Now, let's go ahead and start over. Let's get into our first power tool. So we just closed out of Microsoft. We click on the P for Power Console right here. I want to get into the exploration tool. The exploration tool is really second to none. I've used a lot of different scanning tools and different softwares, and I've found that, again, I may be a little bit biased, but our exploration tool really has the ability to be as customizable as you want. You're able to create these type of explorations with great ease. but also we have quite a few of them that come off with right out of the gate. So we have around 200 explorations that you can run. I have a few more than that, but that's because of some of the add-on systems that we create using these professional traders that have their system built within MetaStock. However, just kind of looking at the stuff that is built within MetaStock, there's quite a lot that we can do. Now, I have the MACD highlighted here. The reason for that is we have all sorts of traders in the room today. Some of you trade stocks, some trade options, some trade futures or Forex, etc. Across the board, everyone is pretty familiar with moving averages. Moving averages are pretty common in everyone's analysis. The MACD is one of the most common systems that individuals use when we're looking at moving averages. So we actually have a MACD expert system that is built within MetaStock that will give you your buy and sell signals depending on where we're crossing over the moving average. This is one of the systems that we have in MetaStock. As you can see from the list, we have quite a few different systems. But let's focus on the MACD today, just for simplicity. So in this window, first off, I'm selecting what exploration that I'm going to run. Now, I can actually perform multiple explorations, and I'll show you how to do that here in just a second. But this is where I'm going to select the exploration. This bottom inner window this is where all of my instruments are. And you can actually customize this window as to what you want to see, what you don't want to see. It's also going to be dependent on where you're at in the world and what data subscription you have. Now, what I've done is gone under Index Constituents. Let's take a look at the S&P 500, which is 504 instruments. So what I want to do is I want to look for buy and sell signals based off the MACD expert system across the S&P 500. Now, the MACD is a really, really general system. And that's kind of part of the reason that I start off with that is because I can take a very large number of instruments based off of a general premise and really start narrowing it down to a very few trading opportunities. So let's take a look at that. On the right-hand side here, we can change the interval that we're looking at. Some of you intraday traders are going to be using our 1 minute or 5 minute, 10 minute, hour charts. I'm going to be using daily today. You can also do all the way up to yearly. We can actually select either a time range that we're looking for or records to load. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Summary here. What this is going to do is it's going to show me exactly what I'm doing. So I'm loading minimum records. I'm loading this date range on a daily interval. And this is the expert system that I'm actually running. And then these are all the instruments that are in the S&P 500. Now, here's where I want to show you where you can actually run multiple explorations simultaneously. And this is very, very handy if, well, for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you start off with a very, very, I would say, general exploration, kind of like a moving average cross-up over 200 periods, or if you're using the MACD system, it's most likely going to return quite a few results. And if you want to whittle that down even further, you can actually do that in one fell swoop instead of having to go back in and run your exploration again. So let's take a look at a MACD expert system. Let's say that we also want to pinpoint instruments that have had a 52-week high. Let's take a look at that. So now when I click on the summary screen, if you notice, I actually have two explorations. Now I can change the order in which I have these explorations, so I can change in which one I run first. So I'll move the MACD up at the top. Now here's the button, here's where you can set up a kind of a drip system. You have a couple of ways that you can run this. First off, you can run two separate explorations. You can run all 504 instruments through the MACD expert system, and then separately you can also run all 504 instruments again through the 52-week high, so looking for those 52-week highs. Or you can set it up as what I call a drip system. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on Use the results from the preceding exploration. That means that as we're looking at our summary screen, we're going to run our MACD expert system first, and then the positive results from that are going to drip down and look into 52-week highs. So we're searching for the MACD first, and then we're going to take those results and search for a 52-week high. I could also reverse that just by clicking the arrows here. So we can set it up a few different ways, which is very, very handy. Now I haven't run that exploration, so I don't know if we're actually going to get anything on that one, but we can take a look. Let's see here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Start Exploration. So the first thing that we're doing, as you can see in the window, we're running those instruments through the initial MACD expert system. They're about 90% rejected right now. So this will take probably about 30 seconds to run that. John, good question. I think I kind of answered that a little bit, but just to kind of cover, what difference does the order make? The order of the systems basically can either make no difference at all if that button is not clicked, where, let's take a look here. So on this right side, this button, if you have this selected, use selected instruments for all explorations means you're going to run two completely separate explorations for all 504 instruments. The one I selected actually is setting up that drip system. Now, the order from top to bottom is the one that's going to run the explorations in. If you have this button selected like we just did. Let's see if we have anything that popped up. Looks like we did. Popped up on a different screen though. Okay, here we go. So our reports came back, and we're going to take a look at the results here. We have two results. John, and just to answer your question, yes, but the result is the same, correct? Sometimes it'll be the same. So if you are running, let's say you want to run a scan on the S&P 500 for a 52-week high. Side by side with that, you also want to run a scan for the MACD expert system. You can do that, and obviously the results are going to be a little bit different. What we've done here is we've actually put the MACD scan over top of the 52-week high, so that any of the positive results from the MACD expert system then automatically get tested to see if any of them have hit a 52-week high. After doing so, these two have in fact hit a 52-week high, and they've matched the MACD expert system. So I can actually open the both of these into charts individually, or I can go ahead and run them through our system tester. Now, with the two of these, let's go ahead and open these in charts. Stack these side by side. I'll show you our expert advisor. Now we're going to go down to what we were using as the MACD. Now this will, you can actually set up so that the alerts will come through here. But this is what our expert system looks like. Okay. The MACD is, again, it's a very, very basic system. So we have very basic MACD buy signals, MACD sell signals. But if we want to understand really what they mean, the expert system comes with our expert commentary. Now the commentary is really what separates the expert advisors apart, because what they're going to do is really educate you on how to interpret each and every single signal. So I have my expert commentary window here. Let's just kind of move over here for a second. And let's go over a bar that does not have a signal. So this explanation, so that currently the MACD is bearish since it is trading below the signal line. The MACD crossed below that signal line 32 periods ago. Now, this is a bar, if you guys can see this black arrow right here, this is a bar that does not have a signal line. Let's go ahead and take a look at today's bar that does have a signal. Big gap up in this bar, but as you can see, the commentary has changed. Currently, the MACD is bullish since it is trading above its signal line. So with the MACD, again, all we're looking for is crossing above and below its signal line to generate these buy and sell signals. Now, this is obviously, again, why we hit a 52-week high as well. So this instrument is showing, and this is Applied Mattel, this instrument is showing quite a bit of volatility, if that's something that you look for. We have a lot of volume with this, so this could be a potential instrument that you might want to trade. We also have something very similar with NVIDIA Corp. I can go ahead and put that expert on. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so we have a MACD buy signal about a week ago. It's still moving off, but as you guys can see, the volume is starting to trail off a little bit. We do have our trend ribbon here at the bottom, so you can tell whether you're bullish or bearish, and the commentary is going to be, actually I don't have to open up another commentary window because it's already right here. Okay. So a couple of different ways. Now I'll take a second and show you one of the other systems here that we have within MetaStock. That's a good example. So that commentary there is a really, really good example of a very basic expert advisor that we have. Let's go to something that's a little bit more advanced. One of the gentlemen that used to work here, he was actually in the support department for a long time. He was in the sales department for a long time, and now he actually trades hedge funds for a living. He put his system within MetaStock, and this the LCI system actually comes within MetaStock. So let me go ahead and put his template on here. So this is the LCI system. As you can see already, this is much, much more than a MACD system. We have our support and resistance lines, we have volume, we have color coding, we have quite a few different things going on here. So if we're to take a look at the commentary, and I really, really like Logan's commentary, just due to the fact that it actually gives you a rating system depending on where the signal is at, etc. So this is the same commentary window that we were looking at earlier, except for the LCI system. Now, a couple of things to note here is that we actually, the LCI system, and he has actually quite a few videos on YouTube about it. Let's get rid of that. There's a lot of training that he has on the LCI system, but the commentary in itself is probably one of the best sets of commentary that we have that really walks you right through the system. Just looking at it, even if you didn't know anything about the system, you hadn't read up, from the price to the volume to the time to the retracement levels, trailing stop values, etc. Everything is within this one window, so that it helps you establish whether or not it is a good trading decision. And if it is a good trading decision, if it's something where, for example, we had a breakout system right here, it is going to go ahead and show you, first off, a rating, as well as potential stop losses and targets that you want to get out of this trade. really, really great system that we've been lucky enough to actually have within MetaStock 14 right off the bat. Now, when you're in a situation where you have more than 2 results on an exploration, we want to be a little bit more careful. You know, let's say that, let's take this out of it, let's take the 52-week high off of it, let's start the exploration. So if we're in a situation where we have 20 or 30 instruments, I still, in all honesty, I don't want to have to go through 20 to 30 charts to look for specifically my trading signals, my identifiers. I feel like being able to shorten that workflow and get straight to the point and narrow it down to just a handful of instruments is really the best way to go. That way I can concentrate more on the few instruments that I will be trading, my entries, my exits, etc. So this is almost done. So let's take a look at the report again. See, for example, if we were only to run the MACD expert system across 504 instruments, we're going to get a lot more than 2 back. Probably have 30 or 40 here. So if I run that exploration and I have all of those instruments, I don't, in all honesty, want to open up all of those in individual charts and you know, apply templates, etc. So what I want to do is I want to find out exactly if that system is working across those instruments, and if so, how well is it performing on those instruments. Okay, so what I've done is I've gotten into our system tester. Now, a system tester is a really, really powerful tool because going into it, you can establish so many different variables. You can choose how much, for example, let's just get into it here. We'll select the MACD expert system. We had 47 instruments pass that exploration for the MACD. Now, on the right side of the screen, we have a lot of different options that we can play with here. If you just take short trades or if you just take long trades, you can select that here. We're establishing what kind of trader you are. We want to run a system test over the course of the last, let's say, 2 years. So there's about 250 trading days within a year, so we'll run it over 500 records. We're going to do it on a daily interval. Now again, all of these tools work intraday as well, so I can be running system tests on a 1-minute chart if I really want to. Now, trade options, this is really where you get to hone in and make it very realistic to your current trading situation. So let's say that you have $10,000 in your account. Now, your default size is basically establishing your risk. In other words, do you want to trade a number of units per trade? Do you want to deal in a transaction cost? Or do you want to trade a percentage of your equity? So let's do a percentage of your equity. So meaning if you have $10,000 in your account, you're going to be trading 10% of that. Let's say that you generate another $2,000 within the first couple of months. We're going to be trading 10% of $12,000. So to adjust for that over time. We can go into brokerage and start adjusting our brokerage fees. You can account for slippage, as well as establishing where you're making the trades, whether it's on entry, close, or at market value. So a lot of different settings you can play with in here to basically set it up to where if you were trading, if you specifically were trading with your account with this system over the past 2 years, how would you have done? Because that's really the million-dollar question, is if you're looking at a ton of instruments, I want to know, okay, historically, if I've been trading in this system over the last 2 years, really, how well have I done? So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. We're going to run this system test, and it gives you this little box right here that's going to give you an update as to how fast it's moving, which it's cruising right along, so we're going to be done here in just a second. So the system tester is done. So what I've done is I've taken the MACD expert system, I pitted it against 47 instruments that we got out of our last exploration. And I said, okay, if I was actively trading this instrument on that system over the course of the last 2 years, how would I have done it? Let's take a look. Here we view the results. Now, initially this is kind of scattered all over the place, but we're able to sort through and kind of establish what we want to look at. The first thing I always look at, obviously, is net profit, because that's really what we're after here. So by clicking net profit twice, I've adjusted it to where all of the top performing instruments are at the top, bottom performing at the bottom, so on and so forth. I can also change it by number of trades. Number of trades is something that gets overlooked a little bit, because let's say, well, most of us have 40-hour-a-week jobs. For example, me, I have a 40-hour-a-week job. Even working at MetaStock and having access to this wonderful trading software all the time, I have very little time to trade. The ability to go through and take a look at the performance of each system pitted against how many times and how active I actually had to be with this system is really important. If you plan on trading once a month, then we're going to want to look here. Net profit, obviously you had a little bit of a smaller account. You profited about $225 off of 24 trades. This is something you could sort by, so that if I see, let's say I'm looking at net profit, but I look over here and I say, well, 68 trades is a little bit much. Or I'm looking at Chesapeake Energy. I look over here and I see, well, 138 trades. There is no way that in 2 years I'm going to have the time to enter and exit 138 trades. It just doesn't make sense for me. What we're doing is we're finding instruments that fit well trading your system and your lifestyle. And that's a really, really important quality. But just based off of what we're currently looking at, let's keep our eye on the prize, and that's net profit. So let's go ahead and take a look here at Harman International Industries. HAR is the rig. So what I did is I double-clicked on it because I want to be able to see the actual report. How many times did I trade? How much money did I make? What was my performance? Was I in long? Was I in short? All these different things. And this is what this window allows me to do. So taking a look at the very basics here, I made $2,000 actively trading this. One of the things that the system tester allows me to also do is to say, okay, well, this really easily shows me how much money I would have made actually trading this system actively. What would have happened if I just bought and held this system over the course of the last 2 years? Well, I wouldn't have done good in this instance. Other instances, other instruments, obviously, there's going to be a big gap. Maybe I would make $5,000 buying and holding this instrument over the period of a year or two versus actively trading it. So those are different things to look at as well. I can take a look at my buy and hold performance, my annualized performance by actively trading the instrument. I had 68 trades, so again, that's something that I really want to pay attention to, is I had to trade 68 times to generate $2,000 over the course of the last 2 years, which really is a 20% gain on my money. That's pretty good for some, but it depends on, again, what your goals are, what availability you have to trade, what your ambitions are, what your account size is, etc. So we're looking at our total trades. We had a 12% efficiency rating, not bad. Profitable trades, we had 40 of them. 24 of them were long, 16 of them were short. Now again, this is going to read a little bit different if I select long only or short only trades, which you can do at this main screen just to the right before you run the exploration. I had 28 unprofitable trades, but that's okay because I won more on each of my winning trades than I lost, which was very important. So my average profit on a trade was $78. My average loss on a trade was $37. So that's a good ratio. We're okay with that. So I can go through many statistics to go through with the system tester. But let's keep moving right along. Now here I can actually take a look at the individual orders. I can take a look at my positions. Here's one thing I actually take a look at a lot, and this is equity. In other words, what does my money look like when it's trading? What am I doing with the account that I have? This is something that I really enjoy looking at because I can see the consistency. I can actually see the consistency of the profit that I'm generating. So you're going to run across, and we can take a look at it here. Let's take a look at something that is less performing. Let's go Hewlett Packard. I want to give you kind of comparison of an equity trade. Okay, perfect. This is not what I want my money doing over time. I do not want this huge lull and these peaks and troughs, these huge swings, and that's why with this I actually only made $225, and I went through a lot of stress doing so because this is what my account looked like. That's not something that I would want to trade against the MACD. Other systems trading against Hewlett Packard might work really well, but I'm looking at the MACD. Let's take a second for a question here. Can you run multiple indicators simultaneously and get results of combining them as you did for the exploration? Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways to use the exploration tool. There are some traders out there that trade a handful of instruments. Apple, Microsoft, the big ones. ETFs, Spider, Diamonds, etc. Some individuals are going to trade, like I said, a handful of instruments consistently. In that case, I'm going to want to find what system works best for that instrument. In the case we just ran, we already have our system. We're already trading the MACD. So this tool can be very, very useful for a person that is new to trading and that wants to get a good idea based off of, let's say, trading the Dow ETF, so diamonds. We want to, let's start off, trading that. Well, I want to find the system that will trade that the best. So I can come in here and I can select a bunch of different systems and run it across DIA, and it's going to tell me which system performed the best. So I can run it both ways, whether I'm looking for an instrument to trade or a system to trade. And that actually makes it really, really diverse from expert traders that already have their system in place down to a person that does not have their system in place but wants to learn more, expand their knowledge on different systems. So quite a few different ways you can use the system test tool. I want to go back to that. Let's go back to that report. So as you can see with this, looking at these different instruments, I've been able to narrow it down to, well, we started off with 504. We're down to, taking a look at Harman. This was the one with the very steady equity curve. This is okay for an equity curve. If we run into flat spots, that's okay as well because that means we're out of risk. We're out of the market during a flat spot, which means we can't lose any money. So that's good as well. But this one actually kept you very active. So let's take a look at that. Now let's say, I bring up a chart of Harman, and it's automatically going to plot the expert system for the MACD on it. And it's going to show me my trades as well. Okay. Now, for this instrument, if I want to take a look at what's happened in the past with this instrument, I've already done a system test of it. So I can tell when the events have happened, I can tell how well I've done. But moving forward, I want to be able to see what price action is going to be like moving forward based off of these major events that we're looking at. We're looking at 52-week highs. We're looking at MACD crossovers. This has happened many times before in the history of that instrument. So what's it done before? And that's really where we start being able to get into the forecasting tool. John, yes, for that question. So combining indicators into one system test, yes, you could do that. And that's kind of where our formula language comes into play. So if you're looking at, one of our our different systems here, you want to integrate, looks like Bollinger Bands and the MACD. That's something that is very, very easily to program just by creating it in our formula builder. So that's definitely also, it's very easy to use, but at the same time, if it's something where you don't want to have to learn how to start creating formulas, that's fine. We'll do that for you. Just give us a call. Let us know. We have formula builders that build custom explorations, custom system tests all the time. So let's take a look at our forecaster tool. Now this is something that, in all honesty, I don't think it gets used enough. The forecaster tool is something that we created and put in, let's see, MetaStock 13 is when it came out. MetaStock 14 brought even more exciting things with the forecaster tool. And it's something that is a really versatile tool. Now I want to preface, before I get into the forecaster tool, I want to let you guys know that, and you already know this, I mean this is not a newsflash for you, that there's no magic 8-ball for trading. There's no crystal ball for trading. There's nothing that's going to 100% tell you the future on it. That's why everyone has to do those exclaimers at the first of their webinars. But the best thing that we can do is take these systems and put all of the odds in our favor. That's what technical analysis is about, is identifying what's happening with the instrument, what has happened with the instrument, and the probability or the likelihood of where that instrument is going to go next. Whether you're looking at Forex, whether you're looking at futures, options traders, just any instrument out there, you're looking at price movement over time. Now, looking at the forecaster tool, let's take a look at, let's see, okay, it was Harman International. So we're going to go down here, we're going to find, did I pass it? I did. Let's take a look at Harman. So the forecaster tool, let me go ahead and start it. Forecaster tool is very unique in that it is going to recognize specific events in the price history. So we're looking at major technical events, not necessarily just price, but also included volume, but something that we consider a major technical event. And to show you what we consider a major technical event is here are 52 major technical events, is what it recognizes. 54, sorry. So we have major technical events. One thing we're looking at right now is a 52-week low. So something that has hit a 52-week low, we want to say, okay, well, when 52-week lows have happened in the past, what happened right after it? Because that can be indicative of the future movement if we've hit one of those recently. So before we get into the actual analysis aspect of it, I want to take a look at and show you, kind of walk you through what the forecast cloud is. This is basically a heat cloud where the hotter the color, the higher the probability. So right now, on the left side, we're looking at a % change in price. So past a 20% change in price or 30% price movement down. At the bottom, we actually have our event timing. So we have a week, 2 weeks, all the way out past 90 days, way out past 90 days. And then on the right-hand side is really the color coding, to where, again, the hotter the color, the higher probability, which makes this actually pretty interesting because it shows here that we have a very high probability of, over the course of the next month, of the instrument going down about 18 to 20%, right around that range. So we're looking at an 80 to 90% probability that our Harman instrument that we've been doing analysis on is going to go down after it hits a 52-week low. Now, what we want to take a look at is, once we have that information, we want to take a look at, okay, how accurate is this? So let's look at the past. Now, these markers are not buy and sell signals. They are event markers, meaning it will actually show you when the event has happened before. Now, the cool thing here is it actually records it. It records the forecast cloud for that day, so that you can take a look at, let's say event number 5, which occurred on January 7th. It's going to show you the forecast cloud from that day. We can scroll through and go through the rest of January. And what we're looking at is the forecast cloud actually changes from time to time based off of how the instrument has moved previous to that. Okay. Now, some of these are going to be a little bit. Looking at these events, we kind of missed the mark here, but that's if we're trading based off of our 52-week lows. Now, we were looking at initially in our analysis the MACD. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down to the MACD. Let's see how many times. Now, this is a MACD cross up, so it's crossed above its signal line. So let's take a look. The event has happened actually 18 times since, let's see, 1,824 days. I just picked a random one. This one happened on August 8th, 2013. This forecast cloud is real accurate, even out to our lighter blue, which again, remember, that's our lesser probability, our lesser likelihood. So we stayed true right along the shape of the cloud and even within the range of the cloud all the way out. Now, if we take a look at our forecast cloud moving forward, this is an interesting one because you see a large movement up, a little bit of a low probability, but kind of a larger movement up after 60 days. That's something that we definitely need to take a look at. So that was, let's see, quite a long time ago that we first looked at. So okay. So this is similar to the cloud that we're looking at right now. See, we actually broke out of this range. So a couple of ways to use the forecaster. The first of which, you never want to base your entire trading decision off of the forecast tool, obviously. This is meant to be, first and foremost, kind of a confirmation signal for you. So if you see these big swings up and you're taking kind of a longer-term option on Harman, and you see that it stays flat, but it has kind of a higher likelihood of spiking up after a MACD cross-up, that's something to take into consideration of your trade. Also, length to stay in a trade. So your trade expectations can actually help you. This can help you define those trade expectations. So your trade targets, your exits. So if you see this cloud and you want to put a stop at a certain percentage below this bar, you can have your trade expectancy within this forecast cloud, whether that be your trade target or your trade exit. A few different things. Now, all of these different major technical events are listed right here. We have a lot of different moving average ones right here. We can actually sort these by highest profit potential. We can do most accurate current forecast. Let's take a look at that, which is the moving average XXX cross up. Take a look at the forecast cloud. This one, we're looking 60 days out, and we're still having high probability of movement based on the likelihood. And again, we're looking at how many times this event has happened in the past, and the overall reaction after that event. So let's take a look at the last time. See, so far we've stayed actually pretty darn close to the cloud. Again, this was about 60 days out. So the event happened on March 11th, and right here at a high probability, we're towards the end of April with this, and we hit it right on the mark inside of our forecast cloud after a moving average triple crossover. Okay. Now, it doesn't stop there. Let's take a look at a new instrument. Let's take a look at Microsoft, one of the big ones that most people trade. Take a look at that forecast. Scroll over here. Now, one of the things that we implemented in MetaStock 14, one of the really exciting things in the forecaster actually, was the ability to create your own patterns. That's really, really cool, because if you think about it, if you're looking at, for example, candle patterns, you're looking for a visual pattern, and you're looking to quantify that mathematically in an indicator, which is really hard. But with the forecast tool, we've been able to kind of take your visual pattern, and we're able to show you when that pattern has happened in the past. So let's say that, let's draw a pattern. So let's say that we want a kind of a J-hook pattern. Let's say that we want it to start up here. We're going to come down, and we want to catch an instrument right around this area. Don't want to catch it at the top. We want to catch it right at the bottom as it starts swinging up if we're more of a trend trader. Okay? So I'm going to enter a name. Just put that as 1-1, so it rises to the top. I can put a description here, say this is a J-hook pattern. Look for the instrument to do this afterwards or whatnot. I can change all of the patterns, different aspects. So I can look at approximately 16 bars, 15 bars, 17 bars. I can change that if I want kind of a longer pattern. And it does say approximate price bars, so if it happens within 14 or 17 bars, it's still going to hit, just at kind of a lower accuracy. The pattern match sensitivity, typically I'm going to keep this at medium or low, because if I keep it at high, I'm going to have a real low probability of actually getting a high match. So I'm not going to get as many clouds. I can focus on 90 days out, 180 days out as far as the cloud. Now, here's an interesting one, is I can actually change the shape and location. So if I have my spread here is 15 bars, I can actually take this entire pattern and I can move it to where if I want it to happen recently, or if in the middle of this 15 bar spread, I want it to start coming up, it'll search within that 15 bar spread, but it's looking for that pattern about halfway through it. So a few different things I can do here. You'll notice that each of these have waypoints, and these little waypoints I can drag up and down, obviously not forward and back, well, back a little bit, but within a specific window. But you'll notice that I can't go backwards with it as well. So it does have those drawing restrictions to make it realistic. Obviously, I can't have a pattern that goes backwards like that. So you could drag and kind of move those waypoints around. Now let's actually save the pattern. We're going to rescan with the pattern that we just created. So I went through and actually it rescanned all of the major events that we were looking at. Let's take a look here. Okay, so this J-hook pattern, it's actually pretty common. In fact, it's happened 11 times since, well, basically in the last 5 years it's happened. So a couple of different things here. We can take a look back. I want to look kind of recent history. But as you can see, these arrows that signify the event actually happening, I'm able to hover my mouse over them now, and it's going to show me the match confidence. So the red is the actual chart pattern that it's displaying. The blue is what we drew. So this is showing me that it's about a 75% match. So it's pretty darn close to what we were looking at. Let's take a look at forecast cloud from that. Very similar movement. Just outside the forecast cloud range, but we had a very similar movement to where we kind of dipped down here and then, make this a little bit bigger, we dipped down here and then we started having that movement up. So it's that direction. Let's take a look here. So this event actually did not happen too long ago. It was May 9th, so about 2 weeks ago this event happened. So this is an 87% match to what we just drew, that J-hook pattern that we just drew. And basically it is saying that at this point it's a very high confidence, even out a couple of months, that we're going to have this little dip and then we're going to start kind of an upward trend again. Let's take a look at forecast cloud, which is what we just looked at. But I want to display the percentages here because the percentages change based off of the actual movement of the likelihood of the movement of the instrument. So we have this 2% upward movement, and then we come back down to kind of even, and then we start this directional movement up. Now, drawing patterns is great. You can spend some time playing with that if you're looking for, you know, specific different patterns. If you want to inverse a J-hook pattern, if you want to look for a flat top and then a drop, you know, you can look at all those different things. But something actually, so with Microsoft, something happened not too long ago. We had this big gap down. Now I want to know what's going to happen after this gap down. So what we're going to do is we're going to select a pattern from the chart. So I can do this anywhere, but let's take a look. So let's drag from about 3 bars before this drop-off to about here. Actually, it kind of looks like a J-hook pattern. So we're going to click yes. So this, by selecting those bars, and this is actually one of the newer features that came in 14 with the forecaster tool, we can actually select any bars on the screen and it will create the pattern for us. So let's do 1A for this pattern just so that I can find it easily. So if we're looking for this pattern, I'm going to go ahead and save. Let's go ahead and rescan. Apologize if I'm sniffling a little bit. Our webinar room is a little bit cold. The air conditioner is cranked up right now. So what we're doing right now is we're actually rescanning for this specific pattern. So we had Microsoft was going up, 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 reached kind of a peak, moved a little bit sideways, and then dropped off the face of, you know, dropped in price. We're looking at quite a few points here. And actually that pattern is, let's take a look. Probably not a super common pattern, hopefully, for Microsoft's sake. Yeah, it's only happened a few times before. This one actually wasn't too long ago. So we're looking at this pattern right here, and it's only happened, let's see, twice. This is 78% match. Doesn't look like I have enough data here really to do a statistical analysis, more of a probability. Let's do something that's a little less of an extreme movement. Let's see here. Let's do something where it starts moving up a little bit. So we're going to have this upward movement, we're going to draw back, and then we're going to consistently get this trend moving up. Again, you can name these whatever I want, or whatever you want. I'm just naming the ones so they pop up to the top. Now here, while I'm at this screen, you can actually select and deselect the ones that you're scanning for. So if I don't want any of these to show, I can actually unselect them. and it will speed up. If I don't use anything on candlesticks, I don't necessarily need to see it. So I can deselect all the candlestick ones or select the ones that I do want to see. It actually speeds up the ability to do these forecasts. So rescan. I think the main reason here, and just taking a look at the stats window here, it's just not a lot of data because we had this sharp movement. Let's see. How do we do on this one? Okay, let's look at a similar J-hook pattern that I did not too long ago, where I actually selected, I actually drew that J-hook here. One of the things that I want to show you is the actual stats, because you can actually take a look at, we're going to minimize this a little bit because we're not focusing on that right now, but we can actually take a look at the different probabilities here, or the likelihoods. I shouldn't say probability, I should say likelihood. So the event has actually occurred 16 times in the last 1,800 days, and it gives you that date range there. On an average, the event happens every 114 days, so it's relatively frequently. It says the shortest gap. It'll show you statistically 7 days after the event occurs with a probability of 95%. The closing price appears to be about 0.78 higher. So in other words, we're breaking down kind of our 14-day expectation, breaking down our 30-day expectation, and notice we only have the very, very high probabilities here, so our 95% probabilities, so that you can quickly look and say, okay, well, 90 days out, we have a very high probability that it's going to be about 5% higher than the current price. So there's quite a few different ways that you can use this tool, and honestly, I feel that it is underused. Use this tool. Take a look at your trade expectations before you place the trade. Take a look at what the forecaster says. This can give you very, very, very helpful hints on when to start exiting out of a trade or when to really start closely monitoring it. If we have a very steady movement up and you're taking an option on this instrument, you know that it has a high probability of being in this area over the course of the next, let's say, 30 days and gradually ticking up. But outside this range, we have a very small likelihood, based off of the statistics given. So a few different ways to use this tool. I definitely encourage everyone I talk to take a look at it, draw some patterns, run some, go through and select some patterns that you see. Because what it's going to do is it's going to say, okay, the pattern that you drew with your hand, with your mouse, has happened before. And this is how it's reacted after the event. And that can be very, very powerful. Again, whether it's a trade confirmation, you need that you're right on the cusp of placing a trade, but you just need to kind of be pushed off the fence a little bit to do so. Or whether you're looking and say, okay, well, I want to take an option on it, or I want to hold the instrument for this long. How long should I stay in this trade? What should my expectancy be? Because, again, after you place a trade, you become a trade manager. This is one of the best tools for that. So many tools within MetaStock, many different things to explore. I'm pretty much going to wrap it up here. I'll stay online here for a few minutes if you guys have any questions. If you have questions later on, feel free to contact us. I will be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Let me get to our contact information here. So you can actually give us a call straight in at +1-801 506-0900. That's our international number. Just take the +1 off if you're here in the States. MetaStock.com/sales chat if you have any questions or if you want to trial a MetaStock. I'm available as well, so just let me know what you need. I really appreciate you guys attending. I hope again that all of the traders here were able, whether you're very, very experienced, been doing it for 35 years, or if you're brand new to stock trading, you're looking for a system, I hope that I was able to provide you a little something that will help you out on your journey either way. Please let us know if you have any questions, and thank you for attending, and as always, happy trading.